If you're anything like me, you have watched Sex and the City more than once. I personally have definitely watched it more than 10 times, each season, on repeat, again and again, especially when I was younger, when I was in high school. I used to watch this series a lot. And one thing that always comes up is the Aidan versus Big love triangle dilemma. Why did Carrie choose Big? Should she have chosen Aidan? I believe when I was younger, I had a bit of a different view on things. I thought Big and Carrie were the big love story of this series. But now, as I've grown older, and now that I work with relationships and especially help people get out of toxic relationships, I can see how that is not really the case. In this video, I'm going to analyze Carrie's attachment to Big and her relationship with Aidan. And then we're going to discuss who would actually have been a better fit for Carrie and what does Carrie need to work on in order to get herself to a place where she can even receive committed, healthy love. Carrie's choice between Aidan and Big really reflects something that I think many women experience, which is to have to choose between stability and excitement. Either you're with the boring partner who doesn't give you any excitement, or you're with the bad boy, or the person who is emotionally unavailable, like Mr. Big. And it all points to Carrie's personal attachment wounds and the stuff that she needs to work on in order to be able to receive a stable, healthy, available partner. And what really strikes me in this series is that true love is painted as excitement. True love equals excitement, butterflies, passion. But is that really true lasting love? Is that how you build a marriage? Is that how you stay together to the end of your days? Is that through excitement and chaos and instability? No, you don't necessarily get that kind of passion when you have a super reliable, stable partner, but that doesn't mean it's not the greatest love of your life. So in that way, I feel like this series, when I watch it now, I see it actually spreading a bit of propaganda about what true love really is. Because true love is not butterflies. Butterflies is usually an indication that there's a wound there that the other person is activating within you and that you have some trauma to resolve. So let's start with analyzing Mr. Big and Carrie's relationship. So Mr. Big, he represents this unavailable person who is displaying. He's a textbook avoidant. He doesn't want to commit. He's hot and cold. One day he is warm and is showing Carrie a lot of attention and love, and the next day he is completely shut off and not even open to committing to a real relationship with Carrie. He never really takes her feelings into consideration. He does what he wants when he wants. Remember when he moved to Paris and he said, "Don't move to Paris for me and expect anything." You know, it's such a typical avoidant, someone who's emotionally unavailable. And I know that Mr. Big, he goes on to marry Natasha, but I would argue that he's still emotionally unavailable even with her, since he very quickly after getting married starts having an affair with Carrie. I think Natasha just somehow was more the picture of the perfect wife that he had envisioned for himself, whereas Carrie, she's a bit more quirky, and he probably didn't envision himself with someone like her. Another thing in their relationship is that Carrie is constantly chasing Big, okay? And so for an avoidant, and in general for men, being chased is not very attractive. You know, remember all those scenes where Carrie would show up at Mr. Big's door with a different outfit on, like bonjour, you know, with the French fries, and other times she's wearing like a hat, like she's just overdoing it. She's chasing him. She's asking him, "Oh, I just want you to consider me. I just want you to consider this as real." And she should have just seen what was right in front of her, which is a man who's not putting in the same amount of effort that she's putting into the relationship, but somehow she just can't let this go. She keeps chasing this man no matter how little he chases her back. So that's a very unhealthy dynamic, and men, they like to chase. Men, they like to, especially in the beginning stages of dating, they like to feel that the woman is a bit like a prize that they're winning, you know, at the end of it. And then, of course, once you're married and you're together or you get into a relationship, you don't chase each other anymore. You build stable, healthy love. But in the beginning, it's okay if the man chases the woman a little bit. She even sleeps with him on the first date, you know, and she does regret it. But it just shows that when it comes to Mr. Big, she just lets go of all of her boundaries, her self-respect, and she just completely, she is, it's like an addiction for her. Mr. Big is an addiction for Carrie. It's a relationship that is full of what we call intermittent reinforcement, which means sometimes she'll get the good love from him, but most of the time she won't. So because the good love feels like such a high for her, she keeps coming back for more. It's the same reason that people get addicted to gambling. It's because sometimes you hit the jackpot, most of the time you don't, but it's completely out of your control when you do. And the same thing goes for Carrie here. It's completely out of her control when Mr. Big is in the mood to be loving towards her. And she even sometimes tries to play games to try to be just friends, which is honestly, it's a joke. Of course, they can't be friends. Of course, they were never friends. Even when they were friends, they were, you know, talking on the phone, sexting and whatnot. I don't think that's what it's called when it's not via text, but you know what I mean. Carrie is waiting for Mr. Big to choose her, and he just never really does. Of course, in the end, he does, and I guess in the movie they do get married, and it seems like they have a happy relationship, which, I mean, great for them if Mr. Big has done some work on himself and Carrie has too, and they are happy, but even then, there's problems, you know, and he doesn't show up, and, you know, the whole thing. This is in the movie, not in the series. So right now we're focusing on the series. Yeah, she really accepts breadcrumbs and she keeps putting Mr. Big on a pedestal. Many people can mistake emotional turbulence for passion and love. And I think that's what Carrie does here. Because it is so emotionally unstable when he's hot and cold, she feels extra high and extra good when she finally does get his attention, and she mistakes that for being extra in love with him. So that's why she is so obsessed with him and she cannot let him go. This definitely points to an attachment wound and trauma in childhood where I don't know what happened in Carrie's childhood, but it could definitely point towards her having experience, having to earn someone's love and having a very chaotic home environment. Maybe her parents got divorced, maybe she has an abandonment wound. There's definitely something there that she needs to look at. It's very interesting in the series Sex and the City. We don't really see parents much. There's one episode where we see Miranda's mom passing away, but other than that, we don't see parents at all. They're not a part of the show. So that also sort of points towards a narrative where parents are either cut off for some reason, or that we don't need family, or that there's something there that seems a little bit like there's been some trauma. And if there has been some trauma in Carrie's life earlier, it would be natural that she would feel way more comfortable in a chaotic environment like the environment she has with Mr. Big, because that's all she knows. That's what she has experienced herself. Now let's talk about Aidan Shaw. He's my favorite. Now that I'm an adult, he's my favorite. Mr. Big used to be my favorite when I was a teenager. Now Aidan Shaw is my favorite. He's the best for Carrie. He is so stable. He's the complete opposite of Mr. Big. He shows up. He is reliable. He's a catch. He's not like some, you know, he's not a loser. He's such a catch. He owns his own furniture store. He's creative. He's good looking. But his one flaw in Carrie's eyes is that he is healthy, stable, and reliable. There's even an episode where Carrie tells him to be less available to her, which just shows us that she's not comfortable with healthy love. She's not comfortable with a partner, secure partner who just shows up and doesn't play any games. She is used to the highs and lows of the game playing with Mr. Big, and she has equated that with love. So now she thinks that when she's not getting those kind of adrenaline-induced butterflies, that means she's not in love with Aidan in the same way. But Aidan is actually, he has so many green flags. He shows emotional maturity. He expresses and communicates clearly that he's interested in a future with Carrie. He also has standards when it comes to the smoking. I mean, he ends up dating her anyways, but he is very good with communication. He's not trying to play games with her at all. He expresses love continuously and makes Carrie feel safe and valued. Unfortunately, she's not in a place to receive that at all. As mentioned, and as you probably know, she starts an affair with Mr. Big while she is with Aidan. And you know what, the thing is, when someone has been used to emotional instability, or if someone is still hung up on their toxic ex, they can even feel suffocated in a dynamic with someone, or feel, of course, bored in a healthy relationship like this, but also suffocated, like they want freedom, they want to rebel, they want to get out. And I think that's what is happening with Carrie. And of course, Mr. Big, now that Carrie has someone else, he's suddenly interested in having an affair with her, and he can cheat on his own wife as well. I mean, it's so toxic all the way around. But yeah, Carrie starts this affair, and then she's checked out of the relationship. She is emotionally unavailable to Aidan, who is actually emotionally available to her. After Aidan finds out and she gets him, they break up and she gets him back. When they get back together again, Aidan proposes, they're going to move in together, and Carrie she even gets a physical rash. Like, she just can't handle that level of calm, secure, predictable, future planning kind of love. And she can't commit to him. She becomes the commitment phobe in this relationship. Aidan is there with a ring. She doesn't even want to wear the ring on her finger. I mean, actually, I am married, and I actually don't wear my ring on my finger. My husband doesn't wear a ring either. It's not because we don't love each other. It's just because actually that's how I grew up. My parents, before they got divorced, they didn't wear a ring either. And now that they're both married to other people, they don't wear rings either. So I don't know. It's just like, and my husband is from India, where things are a bit different. So I don't know, we just don't do that, but I wear my ring sometimes. So I guess I shouldn't, it's hypocritical of me to judge Carrie for not wanting to wear the ring. But the point is that in Carrie's case, it's symbolic of her non-commitment to the marriage and her doubts. Whereas in my case, it's not a symbol of my doubts. I am very much secure and happy to be with my husband. And we are already married. So Carrie's ring is an engagement ring. And, you know, she just doesn't want to commit, and she ends up breaking up again. And I feel bad for Aidan, because he really did everything right. He really did everything right. He wasn't a bad guy. And he was even, like I said, he was even a catch. So but somehow he must have some wounds within him that made him stick around with somebody like Carrie. Somebody who didn't choose him. You see, so there must be something. He's a good guy, but somehow he must have a weak spot as well, because a fully secure person would not have allowed this behavior. A fully secure person would have said, you know what, I have a lot of feelings for you, but since you're not choosing me, since you're showing me in so many ways that you are having an affair, you're not wearing the ring, you're not fully on board with this relationship, I'm going to walk away and find something else. But he doesn't do that. So he probably has his own trauma and wounds to deal with as well. It's difficult for me to say what attachment style Carrie has, because in her relationship with Mr. Big, she's chasing, she's very anxious, she's preoccupied with the relationship. But with Aidan, she becomes more avoidant. She could be a fearful avoidant, she could be a mix. And you know what? In different relationships, different partners can make us tend toward being more anxious, more avoidant. We can actually shift our attachment styles throughout our different relationships. You know, and I don't know if you've experienced that. I have certainly experienced that with some of, my previous partners. Some of them have been extremely anxious, which has made me more avoidant, and some of them have been very avoidant, including my husband. Especially when we met, he was more avoidant, which made me more anxious. I think I tend to lean towards the fearful avoidant side, but I can see how these different people that I have had, the serious relationships I have had in my life, have brought out different sides of me. So I think that's the case here as well. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Carrie, she has a fear of true intimacy. A true intimacy is ready and available with Aidan, but it's not available with Mr. Big. And she ultimately chooses Mr. Big in the end. I know a lot of things transpire before then, but ultimately she chooses Mr. Big. And of course, he wants her when she moves to Paris in the end, right? Ugh. So he can chase her. Like when she stops chasing, then suddenly he wakes up and wants her. I mean, seriously, that's not a great love story to me. That's just, I don't like it. The reason why Carrie chooses Mr. Big is that she has not done the inner work. She has not done the inner work. I know there's an episode actually very interesting where Carrie, she's seeing a therapist and she's saying, I just don't buy this whole therapy thing. It's like you get addicted to your therapist and next thing you know, you start all your sentences with, oh, well, my therapist says. You know, she has such resistance towards doing inner work and she doesn't do it. And that's why she ends up making a mistake and making the wrong choice. She chooses toxic over healthy. If she had worked on herself and her attachment wounds and her trauma and all the other stuff that's going on and her self-worth issues, let's not forget those, because if she had a lot of self-worth, she wouldn't put up with Mr. Big's behavior. If she would address all of that, she wouldn't have chosen Mr. Big. That's my theory. So what can we learn from Carrie's choice? We can learn that love should not be a game. Stability is not the same as boredom. And if you don't work on yourself and do the healing that's necessary, you'll end up making the wrong choices when you choose your partner. So at the end of the day, should Carrie have chosen Big or Aidan? From where she was at, Big was the choice to make because she's not ready for the real intimacy. But if she had been more healed, she should have chosen Aidan. What Carrie really should have done is she should have worked on all these things I just mentioned. She should have done the work necessary. She should have continued working with that therapist instead of sleeping with her co-patient that she met in the waiting room. And then she could make an informed decision. Today's video was a bit different than my usual videos. Let me know if you like this analysis and if you have any comments, if you watched the series and you have some thoughts on Carrie, Big, Aidan and the whole love triangle, please let me know in the comments. I love reading your comments, even if I don't get to answer and write back to all your comments. I read all of them. And I really appreciate you being here. If you like my channel, if you like this video, please like it, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a ton, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.